This is an ADC warning. The crimes you're about to see are true. Only the names were changed to protect the ignorant. Tonight, on America's Dumbest Criminals, some pretty funky footwork, a drive-by surprise, and a mighty fall from grace.
Welcome to America's Dumbest Criminals. I'm Daniel Butler. In the interest of fairness, besides dumb criminals, our show also features brainless, dense, dopey, and dull criminals. And you're about to meet them all, the elite of the criminally inept, as we open the files on America's Dumbest Criminals.
Our first case comes from Gordon Martinez, the mystery of the clothes on the car.
About, I say, February of 1981. It was my last day in uniform, patrol. My partner and I were working the graveyard shift, and we were dispatched to a silent burglar alarm. We responded to the location, and we positioned our patrol car just north of the glass entrance into the department store. We could see that the glass was all broken out. We entered the store, and we had noticed that there was a hole in the roof. The burglars had pried open a vent. As we were searching around, we saw a male re-enter the store. I mean, he came into the store, and he began loading up with more items. He was just grabbing things off the rack, off the display counters, and he was going toward the front door again, the one where all the glass was broken out. Well, we apprehended him immediately, and we walked him outside, and we noticed that on the hood of our patrol car was an enormous amount of merchandise from inside the store. We couldn't understand this. There was a pile of clothing and items that were taken from the department store right on the hood of our marked black and white patrol car. Well, we surmised what happened.
These guys had a plan. Their plan was to break in through the roof, which they did. But then they had to break out to get to their truck. Now they begin to loot like a well-oiled machine. One piles the goods on the hood while the other stashes the goods in the truck. But watch what happens when the police show up. So much for his pal. He's gone with the wind. And the police, they're going to park in exactly the same spot. Now, one white hood looks just like the next one, doesn't it? So as the cops enter the store, our accomplice runs right behind them, and he doesn't miss a beat. Yep. He placed the evidence to convict him on the hood of a marked police car. In Arizona, it used to be against the law to drive your car in reverse. Now it's against the law to drive your car on top of other cars. Our next story comes from Police Officer Perry Knowles of the Pensacola Police Department. When Perry heard gunshots coming from inside a local bar, he had to go in alone. In the back room sat the bartender, still clutching the smoking gun. There were bodies everywhere.
And I got a call of shots fired at one of our little, what we'd call a jug joint, little beer joint, over on the west side of town. So I get over there, and first unit there, and I can hear pow, pow. But as I looked through the door, I saw the people were still dancing, shooting pool, standing around talking. So I ease on through the door, and I listen for another shot, and I hear it. It's down this little corridor. So I ease up to the corridor, and I look down the corridor there, This guy's got a pistol out. Well, needless to say, I didn't figure he was in his right mind to be doing something like this, so when he broke the cylinder open to reload, I went in and took him down. And I asked him, I said, you know, what are you doing?
Put it down! Put it down! What are you doing?
I'm killing cockroaches, man.
He said, everything we've tried in here won't do it, so we have to shoot them to get rid of them.
Gun control versus pest control. The debate continues.
And now, for the first time anywhere, actual surveillance cam footage of a postal worker becoming disgruntled. Postal workers suspected one mailman of stealing the mail, so they planted Christmas cash in his deliveries, and sure enough, he did not deliver. He kept the cash and stashed it in his drink cup. The inspectors were immediately on hand to arrest him, and he was booked for stealing Grandma's Christmas money. Sure, the federal pen sounds bad, but wait till Grandma gets a hold of him. He'll wish he was in the Witless Protection Program. Coming up, a dumb criminal who's playing with pain on America's dumbest criminals. If you're a law enforcement officer, active or retired, and you've ever had an encounter with a dumb criminal, then we need your stories. Just write them down and send them to America's Dumbest Criminals, Post Office Box 1628, Franklin, Tennessee 37065. We do compensate officers for stories.
And now, ADC Technical Advisor and 20-year veteran officer Pete Peterson pulls a man over who soon suffers an identity crisis.
We call this one, Big Brother is Watching.
I was working patrol in a fairly large city, and we had a burglary, and we knew that we'd caught a burglar, and we knew that there was a pickup car in the area. So we were kind of looking, and this one car kept traveling around, and he was suspicious, and I stopped him, and he got out and asked him for his driver's license, of course.
Here you go. What are you doing in this neighborhood?
Cruising around.
Just riding around.
Yes, sir.
I see you're not from here.
No, I'm from a little town about 50 miles from here.
I said, well, tell me the information on there, if you will. So he gave me the name, and I said, okay, and he gave me the address, and he had memorized it pretty good. And I said, well, tell me about the neighborhood, you know. He said, well, it's an average run-of-the-mill neighborhood, you know. And I said, well, you know, I've got some relatives live down there, and I know some of those Petersons down there.
I believe I'm familiar with that
And I
town.
said,
I think I have some relatives down there.
You might know some of them too. He said, well, there's a whole bunch of them down there. He said, you know, I don't know whether I know any of them or not.
I think we might be related.
You and me?
Yes, sir.
I doubt that.
You don't think so?
No, sir. I need to go.
Well, I don't think you need to go.
And finally I said, son, that's not your driver's license. He said, well, it is. I said, no, I don't think so. I said, that's my brother's driver's license. He said, no. He said, I need to get back in my car and I need to go. You've wasted enough of my time. And I said, look, I think you need to look at my name on my badge and take a look at the name on the driver's license. Then you'll know that I'm telling you the truth. My folks live at that address. And he said, oh, crap. He said, this has been one terrible day for me. And things went downhill from there for him.
Now, actual surveillance cam footage we call sleeping at the till. Business was slow, so this bartender decided to take a nap on her own bar, while our one stray customer decides to help himself to the money in the till. He's checking out the sleeping bartender, but what he doesn't realize is that surveillance cameras never sleep. ADC quiz number 728. Suppose that you have just escaped from an American prison. You swim across the Rio Grande when you realize your pickup man isn't there. Do you, A, find a place to hide and wait for him? B, have a taco and a cerveza? Or C, swim back across the Rio Grande into the U.S. to find a phone. Remember, you're a dumb criminal. Of course, the answer is C. 3 guys actually did this, swam back to the U.S., were spotted by the Highway Patrol, and rearrested.
Sometimes the police run into characters that aren't necessarily dumb criminals, but they are just criminally dumb.
About a block behind the police station is it's a condominium, about a 11-story condo. We get a call there one night that somebody up on the top floor heard somebody out in the hallway moaning like they were hurt or maybe faintly crying for help. So we go up and we meet with the complainant who was calling the call, and we go up there and we look around. We can't find anybody. We walk in the hall and we look in the stairwell and we don't hear anything. We can't find anybody. We figure it's all right. So we clear. Call was unfounded. A couple hours later, we get a call back again, this time maybe from the 8th floor. Somebody hears somebody out in the hallway. Sounds like they're hurt. Sounds like maybe they're crying for help. So we go up and walk around the hallway. Can't find anybody. We look out in the stairway. The stairwell, can't find anybody. We clear. Probably around 4 o'clock in the morning, get a call from somebody around the 3rd floor. They're hearing the same thing. So, and we can't find nothing. We're walking all over the hallways. We're going up and down the fire exits, elevators. Can't find a thing.
The next day, Sergeant Beagleson received a report of an injured man found in the dumpster of the 11-story condo. This could be his big break in the mystery by interviewing the victim and the dumb criminal. They were the same guy.
We contacted the hospital, and I believe they kept him overnight, and he was released, and we went to see him. And he had 2 broken legs, 2 broken arms, broken ribs. He was all arms cast and all taped up, along with broken legs.
Well, I guess I had too much to drink, you know.
So up on the roof, he had a skylight with a ridge around it. Well, this guy was up on the roof, a little bit too much to drink, and he was playing a high wire act, walking around the rim of the skylight. He loses his balance, and he falls. Well, he can't fall off onto the roof. He falls right through the skylight and down the incinerator shaft. This is an 11-story building. Up the incinerator shaft, they had steel bars coming out, alternating like this. Every floor, they had 2 sets of these. So he fell to about the first couple of floors, just hopping from one to the other. Then he got hung up laying over the bars. And he was too drunk and hurt to kind of climb out, so he just kept on flip-flopping from floor to floor to floor to floor through 11 stories. All night long, from bar to bar, down the incinerator shaft, and it dropped into a Dixie dumpster at the end of it.
Now, it's already taken this guy 8 hours to fall 11 stories. Now, what could be worse than that? When we come back, we'll tell you. You won't believe it. Welcome back to America's Dumbest Criminals. Officer Beagleson just told us of an unlucky man who went bar hopping and ended up in the never-ending stories, literally. Now he's about to become an uneasy rider in the continuing case, which we now call the motorcycle mummy.
Approximately 3 weeks into his healing, he's still walking around with casts on and all, and he starts feeling a little bit better, and he wants to start getting out and catching up with his personal life and taking care of whatever his business is. However, his only means of transportation is a motorcycle. This guy has casts on his arms and his legs. And he manages to get on a motorcycle, and he takes off to start running his errands. He ends up on this main road I was telling you about before, Oakland Park Boulevard. He's going down the road, and somehow, I think because of his cast, he's not able to function on a motorcycle like he normally would. He loses control of the motorcycle, and he can't reduce the speed. And the motorcycle is just climbing in speed. It hits a bump and throws him off. And as he gets thrown off the motorcycle, his leg gets hung onto it, and he can't get free of the motorcycle. And the motorcycle starts bouncing on the street and standing up and going down the road and dragging him. And as it's dragging him, he's in the median lane, and he keeps getting slapped against the little concrete curb median on the road, and he goes for about maybe 2.5, maybe 3 blocks before the motorcycle falls down and stays down and dies. We get called to the accident. This is probably 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Traffic all over the place, and here he is tied to that motorcycle with the cast, and he's laying in the roadway alongside the median in his motorcycle. He was unconscious. We call the ambulance, and we ship him off to the hospital.
Well, I was drinking again, and
we contacted him. It was about 2 or 3 days later. He was released from the hospital, and he was treated by the same doctor who treated him about a month prior, going down the incinerator shaft.
They won't let me up on the roof anymore.
And the doctor said it wasn't for the casts that were on him. He says that median curve just would have beat him to death, and the cast saved his life or prevented him from getting any further injury. He had no further injury. Everything was done with the cast. Same individual.
In Montana, it used to be against the law to doodle on window shades. It was also against the law to toss toddlers named Tina. And now, actual surveillance cam footage of an officer who has his cover blown but still manages to do the deal. The first thing this dealer says to our undercover officer is that he saw him at the police station, but he continues to do the deal.
So you're down in the county, man. What are you talking about? You? What you want? Nothing from you, man. No, this bullshit. No, I just checking you out. What you want? You got 20 cents ready? Yeah. Can I see it? Yeah, you the law? No, I'm not the law. All right, come on.
This guy knows he's a cop, but he still does the deal.
Can I see it? Can I look at it? Yeah, man, give the money. Well, let me see you have the dope first. There you go. I want you to pull on. You police? Hell no, are you? Yeah, what you smoking for? That ain't none of your business. I believe you the law.
He believed right, and he got busted. Now here's Officer Marcia Underwood to give us the poop on a disturbance call she answered one day.
And we got a disturbance call. And when we got there, I had a trainee with me, and then there was another officer with a trainee. So as we're going up toward the front of the house, this guy comes running out, and he's got a gun. We got that guy, took care of him, went upstairs, and there were 3 more still fighting. And so we got one out, put him on the ground, and I put my foot on his shoulder, right at his neck. And I'm holding him. 2 other officers are in there trying to separate the other 2. Well, as they were pulling on him, this guy's down here going, "Lady, lady, please." I said, "Shut up, man. Lady, lady, please. Oh, come on, lady, please." I'm saying, "Shut up, shut up." You know, it's a pretty stressful thing with everybody fighting. And he said, "Oh, lady, lady, please, please." And I said, "What, man, what?" And he said, "You got dog poop on your shoe." And I did have.
Now, inside the courtroom for trial and error. It's dumb to sell drugs. It's really dumb to sell drugs to cops. But what this guy did is even dumber.
Can you recognize the man you claim sold you the drugs?
Well, no. He's had a haircut, shaved, cleaned himself up. So, no, I can't honestly say that I do.
So, if you can't recognize him, then how can you say that this is the man who sold you the drugs?
Because when I gave him the money to go buy the drugs, I asked him to leave his driver's license so I'd know he'd come back. And I kept it.
Now a story from James Claiborne we call Rops and Cobbers.
Brought a suspect in. He was suspected of stealing a pocketbook from a lady, strong arm robbery. Set him down and began to interrogate him and talk to him about the robbery. And he spoke up and he said, "Look here, mister, I've not done no Armstrong robbery, and I'll blow in a polygram anytime you want me to prove it."
We don't make these stories up because, of course, truth is dumber than fiction. Well, that's all the time we have for this show. We'd like to thank the men and women of law enforcement throughout the country. I'm Daniel Butler saying, Don't be dumb. Don't break the law, or we'll catch you next time on America's Dumbest Criminals.